What up? It's at St. Lauren 57, sober, celibate, and saved. So I was just having a conversation with well, some of the girls here, right? Like I've just been so busy and they've been so busy, and we were kind of just updating each other on things that we're working on and whatnot. And someone had kind of came into like the space and had shared something, and someone basically had said something about how like they made the comment towards that person, like, oh, they're always gonna be an addict and da-da. And I was like, yeah, I sure the fuck am. That doesn't mean I'm always gonna be active in my addiction. That doesn't mean that relapse is always going to be relevant or prevalent. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's like that's one of the greatest gifts I've been given, like, through this season of my life, is like the knowledge and education about my own self and the self-awareness and like the education on my own disease, right? Because like I've mentioned before, like I was one of those people who I didn't want to say that I had a disease, because I have family that has like a genetic disease, and they're all gone. Like, they're all absolutely gone, right? And I had a grandfather who passed away from pancreatic cancer, and I was like, I could never say that I have this disease, because I go out there, and when I have gone out there and when I have been active in my addiction, it's something that's like a choice, right? Now, here's the thing. Yes, like, and it's one of those things, like, yeah, in a sense, like, when you go out and you pick something up and you ingest it, right? You entertain it, you whatever, right? Yeah, that in that moment, right? But a thing about I learned about addiction is just addiction, like, this disease didn't just show up in my life like that, right? Like, there were so many adverse childhood experiences, and there was so much trauma, so much unresolved and unhealed parts of myself. And not only that, there were so many unhealthy coping skills that I learned to keep my like homeostasis at like my homeostasis at a place where I was able to endure things and go on in life like I was okay, living at somewhat of like a normal like level, right? And also able to perform amongst others like in a like normal setting, right? Like being able to function appropriately in multiple settings as I grew up, right? But the thing is like I also adapted a lot of unhealthy coping skills to stuff my trauma and to persevere and to, well, not persevere, but to push through, right? And then inevitably having unhealthy coping skills and having an unhealthy like sense of self-esteem and not knowing my worth, you know what I'm saying? Like, those were things that were implemented at a very young age, and this is like a negative core belief that I thought of myself. Like, I had a very negative opinion of myself, like because I was told things, and those things, those words and those actions were inevitably like incredibly painful to me, but I saw that as what my truth was, and I did what I could to get through life, to move on and to grow and to get to the next phase, right? Like, not recognizing all these unhealthy habits, like, overeating, cutting, accepting unhealthy interactions with men, making poor choices that, obviously reflected a lack of like a positive self-esteem, and inevitably, just entertaining like drinking at obviously before the age of 21. And it wasn't just like, it might have at first been like, oh, me and my friends are having a drink, right? Like, we snuck a drink from our parents, this or that, right? But then it inevitably like would come to a point where, more than one drink would be available. And in that moment, I wouldn't just have one and enjoy myself. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't paying attention to my body. And like, you know, one was like, what they say is like, one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. You know what I'm saying? And inevitably, that's, you know, when I would experience that at a young age, like going through the, you know, trying alcohol and stuff, like inevitably, if there was enough available, then I would drink to black out. You know, and inevitably during that blackout, before that blackout period, I would, like, depending on what I was drinking, and what I was going through, like, I would have like aggressive tendencies. All right. Like, it might be all fun and games, but then eventually, like, the, you know, liquid, you know, alcohol in my body, you know, mixing with my brain chemistry and my lack of a healed self, you know, it brought up a lot of stuff. And then, you know, at first weed was like, I just felt like I didn't feel a lot of things when I tried weed. Like I was able to sleep, you know, because I had a hard time sleeping. I used to pop a whole bunch of Benadryl. And I remember, like, sophomore year, I was able to get a hold of Vicodin, and I was just taking Vicodin. And I don't even know what it really made me feel, but I know I just tried to numb, right? Like, that was the basis, was like numbing. Like, I was going through so much, and I wasn't talking about it, and I wasn't dealing with it, and I wasn't in therapy, and I didn't have that self-awareness. And so my coping skill was, instead of feeling and talking and dealing, was just to numb, to get past it, to just try to live through it. And then obviously, like, you know, marijuana played more of a role, because it wasn't just like, oh, smoking, laughing, munchies. Like, it got to a point where I'm picking up on my own, and it might be social for a moment, right? But then I would take it upon myself to where I look back and I'm realizing, like, okay, like, this problem that is inside of me, I'm not really dealing with, and I don't have to consciously feel it, because this substance is mind altering, into the fact that where, like, I'm not dealing. I'm able to push through. I'm able to not feel all of the things it makes me feel, you know, without that mind altering substance in my body. And then obviously, you know, eventually, like, you know, my DOC, whatever, it moves to methamphetamine, which took care of a lot of my problems when I was younger. But inevitably, it's one of these things where, like, it became my drug of choice that helped me get through difficult times. Like, it made me, like, and that's the point. Like, that's the thing about drug addiction, is like, because of these adverse experiences and these negative core beliefs, like, my brain chemistry is forever changed. You know, having like ADHD, like, my brain chemistry is forever changed. So instead of being in therapy or knowing about therapy and growing in a healthy environment where we talk about things, or like, you know, or in a healthy environment where I have built like a healthy self-esteem, or just being able to, like, you know, be able to take that action so that I can understand and rebuild and gain positive and healthy coping skills, like, to really understand, like, all the choices I make when I'm not healed, and when I have trauma, when I'm stuffing trauma, like, it inevitably causes this cycle of insanity. So what I had said, you know, in this moment, in this space, when this person had expressed how someone's calling them addict, I was like, yeah, I'll forever be a fucking addict if I don't take my fucking medicine, if I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I don't have this, like, if I don't take care of like, if I don't have self-care, if I don't realize, like, physically and mentally and emotionally, when I'm, like, my homeostasis is now coming to a point where I'm having, like, these, you know, these, character defects of isolation, or like, I'm getting overwhelmed, so now I'm getting stressed out, so now I'm isolating. Like, there's so many different characteristics that come out when I'm unwell, like, right? Like, when I'm not, like, strong, like, mentally. And then it, you know what I'm saying, that's all starts to bubble up, that all starts to manifest, it all starts to just boil and cook up something else, right? And you know, and then if I continue to let life go on, and if I don't, you know what I'm saying, and sometimes for some people it's not NA meetings or AA meetings. There are plenty of people who will stay in recovery, and they don't go, they, you know, maybe, like, going to meetings isn't what they need, like, maybe that's not part of their medicine. The point is that, like, we are forever changing our recovery is forever changing. Like, addiction is like, there, nobody's recovery is linear. It doesn't just look one way. Like, the thing about like living with the disease of addiction or having substance use disorder is like, I have to truly be on top of my, like, I have to have self-awareness. Like, I have to really dissect myself, and I have to look within to understand and be aware of like different things that start happening, the way that different situations make me feel, the way that I can or can't deal with them. I have to be completely aware of like who triggers me. Like, I have to be completely aware of the people who I am around, who I'm not around, like I have to be completely aware of the situations I put myself in. I have to be completely aware of like when, like what my numbers are, right? Like, I have to be aware of like what if something is too much, and not even a substance, but a situation, a circumstance, people, you know what I'm saying, in an environment. Like, I have to be completely aware of like when something is too much, and like, I have to be aware of like how things affect me, because if I don't stay on top of that myself, like if I don't take care of myself, and I start like, you know, allowing things to, if I start stuffing things and suppressing things, suppressing feelings, and allowing people to hurt me, allowing me to hurt myself, allowing me to become overwhelmed. Like, if I don't take care of myself, like if I don't take care of my mental and emotional health, right, or my health overall, not even in physical too, like if I do not take care of myself, inevitably over time, like, and that's the thing is, as I was just saying, is addiction, like it, like being in recovery doesn't have a face. There's not a singular mold that you can look at and be like, this is what it is, because, you know, it's forever changing. It's all about being aware, knowing when, if you're going to choose to indulge in something, and when you start using, and it's not even just substances, it's not even just mind altering substances, but if you start using things to distract yourself, to suppress feelings, if you start negotiating with your morals and values, if you start letting boundaries dwindle, then that's inevitably when, you know, it's very possible where picking up can most definitely become a part of your reality. And so what I had told her that, you know, last thing is, if I don't take care of myself, like, I will always have the disease of, I will always have substance use disorder, right? Like, I always will, because that's just my brain chemistry. But that doesn't mean I will always be active in addiction. It doesn't mean I will only have so much time in sobriety. At that point, like, I choose whether or not I'm going to take care of myself. I choose whether or not I'm going to interact or walk that line of things that might put me back into, that I might allow myself to neglect myself and fall back into like active addiction. But it's something that I will always have to be aware of. Like, I will always have to be aware of how I'm feeling, and how much stress I'm under, and how much anxiety I'm feeling, and where, like, I have to always be able to ask for help. I have to be willing to ask for help, and to allow people to, I have to be able to take suggestions. I have to be able to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have to put myself first to know whether or not I'm going to accept something, right? And so I was saying, like, you know, like, fuck that shit, dude. Like, we might always be an addict, right? And some people don't like the labels, but that's not the point. When you're in recovery, the label is not really that difficult. But the point is like, and what I do is, if I stop taking my medicine, if I stop taking care of myself, then yeah, that might actually be something that is like is reality. You know, a relapse could most definitely be reality if you don't take care of yourself, and if you don't take the, you know what I'm saying, if you haven't done the work. And that's what's like important about recovery for sobriety, because you can put a substance down, right, and be sober, so you're just free of a substance, right? But then what actions are you taking? Like, what are you doing instead of picking up? Because obviously, if you are mentally and physically and emotionally unwell, you're going to be entertaining something else that's unhealthy for you, right? Whether it's a distraction or something like this. And it might not be a substance, but that's why, like, you have to pay attention and be like aware, because if you're not, those actions can inevitably put you in a situation, a risky situation, where you're starting to ride that line and you get closer and closer and choose to pick up, right? Like, it might just be like, oh, you make it, and everybody's recovery looks different. Some people can, can go to the bar. Some people can smoke weed. Some people can do this. Some people can do that. Some people, like, for some people, being active in addiction is just them picking up their drug of choice, right? But also there's some people who are like, well, I'm not going to do, cocaine anymore, but I can have a drink here and there. And, for some people that might be true. It's literally different for everybody. There's not a one single mold for addiction. There's not one single mold for recovery. It literally is, everybody's recovery plan is unique to that one single person. And, for some people, like, they really, they get it and they take those precautions, and there's some things that they never ever do again. And most definitely, there's also a lot of people who are relapse. I mean, that's, recovery is not linear, and sometimes people have to do more research, and sometimes, it's just times get tough, and, it shouldn't be frowned upon for somebody to, because that person just needs more help. That's the situation. If someone really has a difficult time maintaining a sobriety, especially over like a many years, if they can't, that means they just need more help. Some people have, darker demons than others, and that's why, kind of the more time you spend around the rooms of recovery, or the more time you spend in therapy, the more time and the more work you do to change your people, places, and things, the more successful your recovery will be, and the longer and the more time you will have, and the more self-awareness you will have to prevent you from, having to be in active addiction. But like I had said, I was like, that's the thing, is I just had to explain to somebody, my own personal, statement about recovery, because a lot of people don't understand addiction. Some people will just look at it as like someone going and ingesting something, putting something up, and they don't really understand like the whole science behind it, and the fact that, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to live. And it's really hard for some people to recover from past trauma. So recovery is possible, and obviously, it's just like anything. Some people, it might not be a drug, but they will continuously make a choice that hurts themselves or others, and it might take them a while before they understand that they're making this choice because there's something that they can't deal with, and they're not ready or don't have the access to the education and therapy that they need to get through it, and realize that they, because like hurt people, but most of the time people are only hurting themselves because they're hurt, and it just happens to affect other people. And a lot of things are honestly learned behaviors, and we all pick up different coping skills, for different things, and what I'm saying, like, most things are learned behaviors, and sometimes the way we get through, our hardships in life looks different, but inevitably, lots of people face that same demon. They just have not been able to, go into the room of recovery and to understand exactly what that means. So there's that. At St. Laurent 57, be safe, be kind.